Welcome to Trending Unpacked, the show where we break down the stories everyone's talking about and explore why they matter. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're, zeroing in on a figure who consistently commands global attention. Donald Trump. I mean, even now, in 2025, his presence just dominates headlines. It sparks conversations everywhere, right? From dinner tables to international forums. It truly feels like no matter where you turn, he's sort of a central character in the ongoing narrative of our world, almost an inescapable force.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how he remains such a central political and cultural figure long after leaving the Oval Office. It's more than just about, current events. It's about understanding this enduring phenomenon. His remarkable ability to stay in the spotlight, to continuously generate headlines. It really speaks to something much deeper about modern society, I think. And the evolution of its media landscapes, the shifting dynamics of politics, it forces us to examine the very mechanisms of influence in the 21st century.
And that's exactly what we're here to explore today. For you, our listener, whether you're just catching up on the political landscape, maybe trying to make sense of the constant news cycle, or perhaps you're just curious about why certain figures maintain such prominent positions in the public eye. Well, we're going to examine the key elements contributing to his continued relevance. We'll delve into his ongoing legal challenges, his unwavering political influence, the media's really intricate role in amplifying and shaping perceptions, and also how he's viewed around the world. It's a complex tapestry, for sure, and we're going to try and meticulously pull at each thread to give you a clearer, hopefully more nuanced picture. So let's begin this exploration. The sources we've looked at make it undeniably clear that in 2025, Donald Trump continues to be a central figure. The question then is what exactly is keeping him so prominently in the public consciousness? It's far from a simple answer, isn't it? It feels like there are just so many interlocking pieces, each contributing significantly to his, omnipresence.
Right. If we consider the broader landscape, what we really see is this potent convergence of factors. They don't just sustain his relevance. They create a continuous, evolving narrative around him. The material we've analyzed consistently highlights three primary areas that are particularly influential here. First, his ongoing legal battles, which seem to generate this never-ending stream of news.
Well, that's constant.
Absolutely. Second, his sustained political standing, especially with his base, despite those very legal challenges.
Which is fascinating in itself.
It is. And third, the omnipresent, often intense media coverage that surrounds his every move. These aren't isolated events or disconnected threads. They feed into each other, creating this constant, almost self-perpetuating hum of discussion and attention. It just makes him an unavoidable topic.
Okay, so let's start there. The first thing that really jumps out from our material is the sheer volume and, frankly, the gravity of the legal activity surrounding him. We're seeing mentions of high-profile trials and courtroom updates making global headlines. Can you elaborate a bit on the nature of these challenges? What exactly are the sources telling us about the specific investigations and trials he's facing in 2025? It sounds like it's far more than just a passing legal issue.
Oh, indeed. The sources specify that he continues to face multiple, highly consequential investigations and trials. Each one carries profound implications, not just for him personally, but for the legal and political landscape overall. These are not minor issues. They cover really significant allegations across various domains. For instance, we see detailed accounts of investigations into his business practices.
Right, like the New York civil case.
Yeah, exactly. The material highlights specific allegations there, like the civil fraud lawsuit in New York, where he and his organization are accused of inflating asset values for years, to secure more favorable loans and insurance coverage. The sources cite properties like Trump Tower, Mar-a-Lago, detailing claims of specific financial irregularities, misrepresentations on financial statements.
So big numbers, high stakes.
Very high stakes. And these types of cases, they naturally attract considerable public interest. It's about economic trust, corporate governance standards, the perception of fairness, especially when such a prominent public figure is involved. Then there's the deeply sensitive matter of the handling of classified documents.
Yes, Mar-a-Lago.
Precisely. The material delves into allegations related to the retention of highly sensitive government information at his Mar-a-Lago residence after leaving office. The sources refer to specific charges under the Espionage Act stemming from the alleged willful retention of national defense information and obstruction of justice.
That sounds incredibly serious.
It is. This is a particularly grave area, as it touches directly upon national security protocols, the protection of state secrets. The legal and ethical considerations around classified material are always stringent, and these cases inherently draw immense attention given the potential risks to national security if protocols are breached and the precedent they could set for former high-ranking officials.
Okay, so business practices, classified documents, What else?
And finally, and perhaps most acutely, we have the investigations into alleged election interference.
Right, 2020 related.
Exactly. The sources provide substantial detail here, notably focusing on events surrounding the 2020 election. This includes, for example, the widely reported allegations in Georgia concerning attempts to influence election results. He faces charges there under the state's RICO Act, among others.
The IRCO charges, yes.
And the material also covers the ongoing federal investigations into the events of January 6th, examining his role and actions leading up to and during the Capitol riot. These investigations directly strike at the very heart of democratic processes. They question the integrity of elections, the peaceful transfer of power. Regardless of their ultimate outcomes, they inevitably spark widespread debate about the foundations of our political system, the rule of law, the responsibilities of leaders. The continued progression of these cases, with every filing, every motion, every hearing, every new piece of evidence, it ensures a constant stream of news and public discussion.
So it never really stops.
It doesn't. Irrespective of the specific rulings at any given time, these aren't simply isolated legal technicalities. They are, for you, crucial data points and a much larger unfolding story about accountability and the rule of law at the highest levels of power.
So what we're seeing then is not just one isolated legal event, but this complex, interconnected series of legal challenges, each one with its own significant gravity and intense public interest. It truly reads like a multi-chapter legal saga unfolding in real time, each development adding another layer. Is that a fair way to put it?
Absolutely. I think that's a very fair description.
Yeah.
The sheer breadth and depth of these investigations mean that the legal narrative around Trump isn't a discrete event with a clear beginning and end. It really is an ongoing saga with multiple concurrent plot lines that are constantly evolving.
Like a political thriller playing out.
It's almost like that, yes. With each court filing adding a new twist, keeping everyone sort of on the edge of their seats regardless of their political leanings. The sources even detail how certain legal maneuverings seem as much about public relations as they are about jurisprudence, aimed at controlling narratives, rallying support. So for the discerning observer, these courtroom updates aren't just legal technicalities. They are significant data points in a much larger story about accountability and the enduring strength of the rule of law in a democracy. The outcomes of these trials, whether favorable or unfavorable for him, will undoubtedly shape not only public perception of Trump himself, but also future political landscapes. The precedent set for political figures.
Huge implications.
Exactly. This constant state of legal flux just ensures his name remains constantly in the headlines, debated and analyzed from every possible angle.
Okay, so moving beyond the courtroom dramas, though they're obviously huge, the material we've reviewed also strongly emphasizes his political relevance and the incessant speculation around future election runs. What does this ongoing political engagement actually look like for Donald Trump in 2025, according to our sources? How does he manage to maintain such a potent political presence, especially when he's not currently holding office and, simultaneously facing such intense legal challenges?
Yeah, that's what's particularly striking here. Despite the immense legal pressures, his political machine continues to function with remarkable resilience and, frankly, effectiveness. The sources extensively detail his ongoing rallies energizing his base. These are far more than just traditional campaign events.
They feel different.
They do. They represent a sustained, almost continuous connection with a significant segment of the electorate that remains deeply loyal, almost unshakable in their support. The material highlights that these rallies serve multiple strategic purposes. They powerfully energize his core supporters, giving them a direct line to his message. And they emphatically demonstrate his continued popularity and influence to potential political allies, to challengers, and to the broader public.
And his rhetoric at these rallies.
Well, his populist rhetoric, as the material carefully notes, continues to resonate very strongly with these supporters. The sources describe this rhetoric as characterized by direct appeals to sort of working class frustrations, a consistent us versus them framing against perceived elites and established institutions, and a clear rejection of what he often terms political correctness.
That framing seems key.
It is. This narrative validates existing grievances and provides a clear, identifiable opponent. It reinforces the deep connection he has with his base and mobilizes their sentiment very effectively. Furthermore, the mere speculation around future election runs, that itself becomes this powerful, almost gravitational political force.
Just the idea of it.
Just the idea of him potentially running again profoundly influences other candidates. It shapes party strategies. It impacts fundraising efforts across the entire political spectrum. It essentially keeps him right at the center of political discussions, forcing virtually every other political actor to react to his potential moves or pronouncements.
So he sets the agenda, even from the sidelines.
Effectively, yes. It ensures he remains a primary player in the national political conversation, even without holding a formal office. What this really underscores, for you listening, is how political power isn't solely tied to holding office. It can be maintained through persistent public engagement, a clear political identity, and, crucially, the ability to rally and energize a dedicated base. Regardless of formal position, this sustained, unconventional engagement ensures he remains an undeniable and central figure in the national political discourse.
So his political relevance isn't just about potential future campaigns, then. It's profoundly about how he continues to shape the current political conversation, setting the agenda, maintaining an active, influential role, even from outside formal government. It sounds less like traditional politics and more like a perpetual campaign, really, regardless of whether there's an actual election just around the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His role is undeniably multifaceted. It encompasses far more than just traditional campaigning. It's deeply entwined with his personal brand, which has become, inextricably linked to a specific political ideology and a broader social movement. It's about his significant influence on policy discussions. His statements, endorsements, even criticisms can significantly shift the focus or direction of entire debates within his party and sometimes even beyond.
Right.
And perhaps most crucially, it's about his extraordinary capacity to mobilize a dedicated voter base that responds directly and powerfully to his calls to action. This dynamic, as the sources articulate it, raises an important question for all of us, really. What does it say about contemporary politics when a former president, facing such intense and varied legal scrutiny, can still wield such significant political power, command such fervent loyalty, consistently influence the national agenda? It speaks to a profound, perhaps lasting shift in how political authority and influence are constructed and maintained in the modern era. It emphasizes charisma, media savvy, and that direct connection with a passionate segment of the electorate.
Okay, let's talk about that media savvy. The sources we've examined also consistently highlight the extensive media coverage that surrounds him, and crucially, how social media fuels the conversation. How does this relentless media dynamic encompassing both traditional and digital platforms contribute to his enduring influence and, frankly, to the heightened polarization we see everywhere? It really does seem like a constant self-reinforcing loop. He generates news, the media covers it, which then fuels even more intense conversation.
Yeah, the material we've reviewed captures this dynamic very succinctly. It describes how social media fuels the conversation, with polarized communities amplifying both support and criticism in an incredibly intense way. This isn't passive reporting. It's an active, almost frenetic feedback loop. Every statement he makes, every legal development, every rally, it's immediately picked up, amplified, debated across a myriad of digital platforms.
Creating those echo chambers you mentioned?
Exactly. It creates a powerful echo chamber effect where individuals are primarily exposed to content that reinforces their existing views. This often leads to a deeper entrenchment of polarization rather than, open dialogue. The sources describe how this environment fosters a sense of shared identity within these communities, making it harder for dissenting views to penetrate or be seriously considered. But what's particularly insightful and repeatedly emphasized in the material is this media theory presented in the sources.
Right, what does that say?
It suggests that Trump understands how to dominate news cycles, leveraging controversy as strategy.
Leveraging controversy as strategy. Okay.
Yes. This is a critical insight into his operational modus operandi. It implies a deliberate and remarkably effective approach to engaging with media. Every legal development, every rally, every statement, however provocative, becomes content to be disseminated and debated. It's not just that he's controversial, it's that he appears to strategically use controversy.
How so?
Often through hyperbole, emotionally charged terms, or direct attacks on perceived opponents, specifically to generate and maintain attention. The sources illustrate this really well, for instance, through his deliberate choice of language in rallies, frequently employing phrases like witch hunt or fake news, which almost immediately guarantee extensive media pickup.
Because they're inflammatory.
Precisely. They highlight how even negative coverage, rather than harming him in the eyes of his supporters, often reinforces his anti-establishment narrative among his base. It makes him appear as this defiant figure battling powerful, corrupt institutions.
Like political jujitsu, turning criticism against the critics.
Exactly, turning critique into a badge of honor for his supporters. This approach, as the sources detail, allows him to bypass traditional journalistic gatekeepers and speak directly to his base, while simultaneously dominating broader news outlets. regardless of their editorial stance. This phenomenon, for you, our listener, illustrates how modern media, especially social media, can profoundly magnify existing societal divisions. It turns political discourse into a constant high-stakes spectacle, where attention itself becomes a powerful form of political currency, irrespective of the nature of that attention.
So it really is a symbiotic relationship then. The media covers him extensively, almost compulsively,
Yeah.
and he, in turn, seems to have mastered the art of generating that coverage, often, as you said, through controversy. He provides the spark, and the media, along with social platforms, just quickly turn it into this wildfire of discussion, debate, and sometimes division.
Absolutely. The extensive coverage isn't just a byproduct of his actions. It's clearly portrayed in the sources as an integral strategic component of his political strategy and ongoing relevance. It ensures he remains top of mind, even for those who vehemently oppose him. Whether the coverage is positive, negative, or neutral, the sheer volume and omnipresence ensure his visibility is maintained at a consistently high level. This perpetuates a continuous cycle where media attention, regardless of its framing, fundamentally contributes to his visibility and, by extension, his enduring influence. It's a powerful testament to the idea that in today's media landscape, just being seen and talked about, even controversially, can be a more potent political tool than, say, traditional policy debates.
Okay, now, let's move from the maybe more structured world of traditional media to the much more fluid and, frankly, sometimes chaotic digital sphere. Our sources describe a landscape dominated by polarized communities amplifying both support and criticism online. What are the dominant online reactions and narratives surrounding Donald Trump in 2025? It sounds less like a marketplace of ideas and more of a deeply divided digital battleground.
Yeah, this is where the intricacies of modern digital communication really come to the fore, especially in the online space, because it so vividly reveals the depth of contemporary societal divisions. The material we've reviewed explicitly outlines two main, often diametrically opposed, viewpoints that define the vast majority of the digital discourse around Trump. On one side, we have the profoundly influential supporters' view. This consistently frames the narrative that Trump is a victim of political persecution designed to silence him.
The witch hunt narrative again.
Precisely. This narrative, as detailed in the sources, often interprets the numerous legal battles not as legitimate investigations into alleged wrongdoing, but rather as politically motivated attacks. These attacks, they believe, are aimed at undermining his legitimacy, preventing his return to power, or simply discrediting him in the eyes of the public. It's an incredibly powerful narrative. It fosters a strong sense of solidarity and shared grievance among his base, making them feel that he's being unfairly targeted and that they, by extension, are also under attack by a corrupt system.
That shared victimhood must be a strong binder.
Extremely strong. This shared perception galvanizes his supporters, turning almost every legal challenge into a rallying cry and an affirmation of their loyalty. Then, on the other side, equally entrenched, we observe the critics' view. This perspective posits that trials highlight accountability and the dangers of unchecked power.
So the rule of law perspective.
Exactly. Yeah. This perspective, strongly articulated in the sources, sees the legal processes as absolutely essential for upholding the rule of law, for holding powerful individuals, regardless of their stature, responsible for their actions. For these communities, the legal proceedings emphasize the critical importance of legal checks and balances to prevent abuses of authority and to ensure that no one is truly above the law. They view the trials as a necessary process to safeguard democratic institutions and to reinforce the principle of equal justice. So for you, listening, it's crucial to understand how these two deeply entrenched and almost diametrically opposed interpretations exist side by side, each constantly reinforced within its own online community.
Right.
These are not merely different opinions. They often function as fundamentally different lenses through which all events are viewed, leading to profound and often intractable societal polarization.
So online, it's not merely a space for open debate or nuanced discussion, but often a powerful echo chamber. Pre-existing beliefs are constantly reinforced, with each side having a very clear, almost foundational interpretation of events. It's almost like two separate digital realities running in parallel, rarely intersecting constructively.
Precisely. These aren't just casual opinions. The sources show they often function as deeply held, almost tribal beliefs that fundamentally shape how individuals interpret every piece of news, every legal update, every public statement. Online communities, through that potent combination of algorithmic curation and self-selection, tend to reinforce these narratives. They create echo chambers where dissenting views are frequently absent, actively suppressed, or simply never encountered.
Which makes dialogue almost impossible.
It makes genuine, nuanced dialogue incredibly challenging. And it can significantly deepen the sense of societal division, often leading to mutual incomprehension between the different camps. This raises an important question for us to consider. How does this digital echo chamber influence not just individual beliefs, but also the broader collective political and cultural landscape, especially when these narratives become so deeply entrenched and resistant to outside perspectives? It has profound implications for how society understands truth, justice, and shared reality.
Beyond just these explicit narratives, our sources also point to social media's broader role in fueling the conversation. How do elements like memes, hashtags, viral content, the very language of internet culture contribute to Donald Trump's cultural presence, often extending far beyond just explicit political discussion? It feels like he's become this ubiquitous part of the everyday digital language and collective consciousness for so many people.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here, and extensively hinted at in the sources, is how his persona, his actions, reactions to him, how they all translate into the rapidly evolving and often ephemeral language of the internet. While our specific sources might not explicitly detail particular examples of memes, the consistent mention of social media fueling the conversation, with polarized communities amplifying both support and criticism, well, that strongly implies the widespread creation and sharing of this kind of content.
It's everywhere.
It is. The material analyzes how these digital artifacts function as powerful tools for rapid narrative dissemination and cultural commentary. Memes and hashtags serve as this incredibly effective shorthand for complex ideas. They act as cultural artifacts that distill political commentary into easily shareable, often humorous, satirical, or profoundly provocative nuggets. The sources describe specific categories of viral content, for example, praise memes that celebrate his image or actions, or, conversely, satirical attack images that critique or ridicule him.
So both sides use them heavily.
Absolutely. They become a primary way for both supporters to express loyalty, often through inside jokes, shared symbols, coded language that outsiders might not immediately grasp, and for critics to voice dissent, ridicule, or opposition. These forms of digital communication are incredibly effective at reaching diverse audiences, including those who might not typically engage with traditional news outlets or lengthy political analyses.
Right, they cut through the noise.
They do. They bypass the need for deep textual engagement and convey emotion, allegiance, complex ideas almost instantly. This rapid viral dissemination ensures that his actions and words, or crucially, reactions to them, penetrate far beyond typical news consumption. He becomes not just a political figure, but almost a recurring character in this vast, ongoing internet drama, constantly referenced, parodied, celebrated, or condemned. This constant digital presence weaves him deeply into the fabric of popular culture, making him an inescapable and often polarizing fixture in many online spaces. So for you, understanding this dynamic layer of internet culture is absolutely key to grasping the full scope of his ongoing influence. How his impact extends far beyond policy and politics into the realm of popular culture and collective identity, becoming almost a shorthand for a larger set of cultural values and debates.
So these aren't just trivial online jokes or fleeting trends then. They're powerful tools for cultural interpretation and political communication, often shaping public perception in subtle but incredibly significant ways. Almost a new, highly effective form of public discourse, albeit one that's highly fragmented and often tribal.
Precisely. They are a profound form of collective storytelling, albeit one that is highly fragmented, often biased, and incredibly rapidly evolving. These digital artifacts play a crucial, almost foundational role in shaping narratives, fostering a sense of community among like-minded individuals, and even influencing political identity in ways traditional media often struggles to achieve. They create a kind of digital folklore around his persona, constantly iterated and shared. So for you, understanding this intricate layer of internet culture is essential to truly grasping the full scope of his ongoing influence. How his impact extends beyond the traditional confines of policy and politics, directly into the realm of popular culture and collective identity, becoming a powerful marker of broader societal trends and divisions.
Okay, finally, let's touch on the global view. Our material provides us with a truly fascinating global perspective. It states that outside the U.S., Trump is often seen less as a political leader and more as a cultural spectacle representing U.S. polarization. What does this international viewpoint tell us about his ongoing relevance? It suggests a distinctly different kind of framing from abroad compared to how he's perceived domestically.
Yeah, if we connect this to the broader international context, it's a profound observation. It highlights a crucial distinction in perception. Within the United States, the intense debate around Donald Trump is deeply rooted in domestic politics, specific policy implications, fundamental constitutional principles. He is a direct, active participant in the political system.
It's personal, it's immediate.
Exactly. Discussions domestically are often focused on his actions as a former president or his potential future role as a leader. Internationally, however, While the political implications of his actions, any potential return to power, are certainly noted and discussed in diplomatic circles, the broader global public and media focus often shifts significantly. He sort of transcends the role of a mere politician and becomes this powerful symbol, almost a larger-than-life character. The sources describe him as representing the dramatic divisions within American society itself.
A symbol of the division.
Precisely. This global perspective, as the material carefully lays out, abstracts him from the day-to-day political battles and places him into a much broader cultural narrative. It becomes about the spectacle of American democracy, its challenges, its perceived eccentricities, its internal struggles, its often dramatic public discourse, all played out on a global stage through the highly visible figure of Donald Trump. He embodies, for many outside the U.S., the extreme ends of American political and cultural discourse, a living embodiment of its most contentious debates. This view can be less concerned with his specific policies and more about what his continued prominence signifies for the overall health, stability, and future direction of American society itself. He becomes a kind of barometer, a constant, unavoidable indicator of the state of a deeply divided nation, a global icon of a particular kind of disruptive populism.
So, for many observers outside the U.S., he's not just another political figure, but almost a living, breathing embodiment of America's current state of profound division and dramatic public discourse. A powerful cultural symbol, rather than just a politician in the traditional sense.
Exactly. For you, our listener, this offers a uniquely valuable lens through which to view his ongoing relevance, not merely as an American domestic phenomenon, but as a global symbol. One that encapsulates complex and interconnected themes of populism, the pervasive influence of modern media, and the evolving nature of national identity in an increasingly interconnected and often tumultuous world. His story, seen from this international vantage point, becomes a compelling case study for understanding broader global trends, reflecting on how the internal political dynamics of a superpower are perceived, interpreted, and often sensationalized across different cultures and political systems.
Okay. So, after meticulously examining the legal battles, his remarkable political resilience, the intricate media strategy he employs, and the diverse cultural interpretations he inspires, the overarching question for you, our listener, is, so what does this all mean? Why does Donald Trump continue to be such an undeniable cultural lightning rod in 2025? What are the core fundamental elements that solidify this unique and enduring role for him?
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here, as the sources consistently emphasize, is how deeply intertwined these factors are. They create this reinforcing, almost self-perpetuating cycle of attention and influence. The material highlights several core reasons that contribute to his persistent role as a cultural lightning rod. Firstly, his presidency itself. As the sources articulate, it was marked by divisive policies, populist rhetoric. This period didn't just lay the groundwork, it actively forged his enduring, polarizing appeal. He didn't merely govern, he actively cultivated a very specific, intensely loyal base.
By appealing directly to them.
Directly appealing to their frustrations, their anxieties, a strong sense of grievance against perceived elites and established norms. This base, as the sources detail, continues to be energized by his actions and rhetoric, regardless of external challenges. They view him unequivocally as a champion, a defiant figure battling powerful, corrupt institutions on their behalf. This historical foundation of deeply polarized and intensely loyal support is absolutely crucial to understanding his sustained relevance.
Okay, so that's the foundation. What else?
Secondly, his profoundly proactive and often unconventional engagement with the media, as the media theory extensively suggests, involves leveraging controversy as strategy with remarkable efficacy. The sources provide numerous examples of his, uncanny ability to generate news and consistently keep himself at the center of attention, whether through incendiary rallies, strategically timed social media posts, or his often provocative reactions to legal developments.
He knows how to get attention.
He certainly seems to. Every legal update, every political statement, every public appearance, no matter how seemingly minor, feeds directly into this voracious cycle of attention and debate. This isn't just about what happens to him, but profoundly about how it's framed and amplified, often by his own deliberate and strategic actions. This powerful combination, an intensely loyal and energized base, coupled with a savvy, almost masterful, deliberate media strategy, fosters his unique ability to captivate and divide, making him an absolutely unavoidable topic of conversation. This, for anyone observing contemporary politics, raises an important question. What does it say about contemporary society that such a figure continues to captivate and divide in equal measure, consistently dominating headlines? And what profound implications does this hold for the future of political leadership and public discourse?
So it really boils down to a potent and, yeah, maybe unique combination of his established political style, a deeply loyal and perpetually energized base, and a savvy, almost masterful approach to generating and then maintaining relentless media attention that keeps him so firmly in the spotlight. It's truly a very specific alchemy of forces at play.
Precisely. He possesses a unique and undeniable ability to command attention, often by consistently challenging established norms, deliberately defying conventional political wisdom, and proactively positioning himself at the very center of both fervent admiration and fierce opposition. This dynamic ensures he is never for long out of the public eye. His presence is a constant, almost inescapable force in the national and global conversation. This, in turn, raises an important question for us to reflect on. What does it genuinely say about contemporary society that such a figure continues to captivate and divide in such equal and profound measure? It suggests a fundamental, perhaps irreversible shift in what makes a political figure relevant and powerful, moving significantly beyond traditional metrics to encompass the potent forces of celebrity, intense media engagement, and deep cultural resonance.
Right. If we zoom out a bit, then, what does Donald Trump's sustained influence, this ongoing phenomenon, truly tell us about the broader landscape? Politics, the relentless nature of modern media, even the evolving definition of celebrity in our modern world. He really does seem to be a walking, talking embodiment of how these spheres now profoundly intersect and influence one another.
Yeah, if we connect this to the much bigger picture, his ongoing relevance is a powerful, undeniable commentary on several significant societal shifts that are fundamentally transforming how we understand and engage with public life. In the realm of politics, it powerfully highlights the enduring, almost magnetic power of populism and intensely personality-driven movements. It clearly demonstrates that political influence can extend far beyond holding an official office.
Just by being visible.
Just by remaining a vocal, active, and highly visible presence. The speculation around future election runs, as detailed in the sources, is a testament to this. It illustrates a profound shift towards what some describe as a perpetual campaign cycle, where the traditional lines between governance and campaigning are increasingly blurred. It also starkly reveals the deep fragmentation within traditional party structures, where a single charismatic figure can command immense personal loyalty, often independent of and sometimes even in defiance of the party establishment itself.
Okay, and what about media?
Regarding media, his story underscores the profound and often overwhelming impact of 247 news cycles and the pervasive influence of social media on public discourse. His remarkable ability to dominate news cycles and for polarized communities to amplify both support and criticism, it demonstrates with stark clarity how information consumption has become incredibly fragmented, often emotionally charged, and tailored to existing biases. The media's role, as the sources suggest, isn't just to neutrally report. It often actively frames, reacts to, and in some ways inadvertently co-creates the very phenomenon it covers.
Fueling the fire it's reporting on.
In a way, yes. This constant feedback loop means that controversy can be leveraged not just for fleeting attention, but as a strategic, highly effective tool to maintain relevance, mobilize supporters, and constantly shift the narrative. It transforms news into a form of continuous political performance and spectacle.
And celebrity, how does that fit in?
And finally, when it comes to celebrity, his entire journey just blurs the lines entirely between entertainment, politics, and public persona in an unprecedented way. The global perspective, which notably describes him as a cultural spectacle rather than simply a political leader, is absolutely key here. It powerfully shows how political figures can transcend traditional roles to become global cultural icons, for better or worse, profoundly influencing trends, conversations, and even the very fabric of national identity. His actions, his statements, even his distinct image become an integral part of the collective cultural consciousness, subject to memes, jokes, serious academic analysis, and fervent debate all simultaneously. So for you, this means recognizing that these three spheres, politics, media, and celebrity, are no longer distinct or separate. They are now deeply and inextricably interwoven, with figures like Trump standing at their complex and often volatile intersection, fundamentally shaping our understanding of power and public life in the modern age.
So he's truly a kind of living, breathing case study for how these powerful converging forces, politics, media, celebrity, shape our world today. An undeniable example of a new kind of public figure for a new kind of age.
Absolutely. His continuing story, as illuminated by our sources, profoundly reflects deep and widespread changes in how we consume information, how we engage with leadership, and how we collectively perceive and construct national identity in a hyper-connected, often polarized, and rapidly evolving world. He serves as a powerful mirror, reflecting many of the most significant and complex dynamics currently at play in contemporary society.
Okay, so looking ahead then, what are the potential paths forward for his influence. Given the ongoing, multifaceted trials and the ever-shifting political landscape as suggested by our source material, how might these various complex threads play out in the coming years? What implications do they hold?
Well, the sources consistently imply that the future for his influence remains exceptionally fluid, highly dependent on the outcomes of his various legal and political endeavors, making any definitive prediction inherently difficult. On the legal front, the rulings and eventual resolutions in his numerous high-profile trials will be absolutely critical. Determinative, really. If convictions occur, especially in significant cases, it could fundamentally alter his political viability, potentially impacting his ability to run for office, or at the very least, significantly shifting public perception.
Reinforcing that accountability narrative.
Exactly. That outcome, the source suggests, could reinforce the accountability narrative, sending a powerful message that no one, regardless of stature, is above the law. Conversely, if he achieves exoneration, or if delays in appeals are widely perceived as legal victories, it could significantly strengthen the political persecution narrative among his supporters.
Energizing the base further.
Right. This would further energize his base, potentially boosting his political capital by validating their deeply held belief that he's being unfairly targeted by a weaponized justice system. Then, politically, the speculation around future election runs and the sustained nature of the rallies energizing his base strongly suggest that he will continue to be a formidable and undeniable presence, regardless of whether he immediately holds office or not.
So even if he doesn't run or can't run,
Even then, his influence on the Republican Party and on the broader political conversation will almost certainly persist. The path forward involves continued attempts to shape the Republican Party's platform and direction, influence elections through powerful endorsements, vigorous campaigning for favored candidates, and maintain a potent public platform through his omnipresent media engagement and direct communication channels. So for you, this means understanding that his narrative is far from over. The intricate and unpredictable interplay between the legal, political, and cultural spheres will continue to define his role in the years to come, ensuring his story will continue to unfold in significant, often surprising, and deeply consequential ways for American society. So his future influence is a highly complex equation then, with critical legal decisions, the fluctuating tides of public opinion, and his own strategic political moves all playing a significant interconnected part. It's certainly not a static situation, but a constantly moving target. Indeed. It's a profound testament to his truly unique position in modern American life, where the intersection of these powerful forces, legal, political, cultural, creates an ongoing, constantly evolving story, one that will undoubtedly continue to shape headlines and public discourse for the foreseeable future. His journey will undeniably remain a central focal point for anyone seeking to understand the dynamic complexities of power, media, and public engagement in our contemporary world. Well, we've explored the intricate and often turbulent web surrounding Donald Trump in 2025. From the intense courtroom dramas to the polarized digital battlegrounds and his multifaceted global image, it's abundantly clear that his influence is deeply embedded in the very fabric of contemporary politics and culture, a phenomenon that continues to evolve and challenge traditional understandings of leadership and public engagement. Yeah, this comprehensive exploration truly highlights how a single, highly visible figure can become such an unparalleled focal point for so many different, often conflicting narratives about power, the relentless nature of modern media, the deep societal divisions that characterize our times. For you, our listener, we sincerely hope this exploration provides a clearer, perhaps more nuanced understanding of why he continues to trend and what that says, not just about him, but profoundly about our world today.
absolutely. It certainly leaves us with much to consider and reflect upon regarding that ever-blurring intersection of law, politics, and celebrity. Thank you for joining us for this in-depth look. Next time on Trending Unpacked, we shift from politics to literature with a closer look at Graham Greene, his works, his influence, and why he's suddenly trending again.